Okay, we're live. Good evening, everyone. So we will have a really special, exciting call for you guys tonight because it is men's mental health week. We decided we'd get some of the guys that we've been working alongside, and we wanted to jump on a call and sort of share and get a little bit more awareness out there, because I know as men we're very difficult to kind of share in our feelings if we're going through different things, sort of struggles. We normally keep them to ourselves. As women normally are a lot better at it. They're normally a lot easier to share if they're going through problems. They can share it with their friends. But as men, we normally try and keep that to ourselves. We don't really normally share it out. There's background noise. There. Somebody's just noise there. Okay. So what we wanted to bring some guys on. They're going to share their stories, sort of how they were feeling kind of before they started getting involved, sort of helping with their sort of improving their lifestyle, sort of some of the things that they did, some of the tips they're going to share with you guys. They see maybe it might help somebody and help improve. Just your Gary. I'll just mute you 1 second. Just Gary. Perfect. Okay, so we'll just get some of them to share sort of maybe some of the struggles that they were going through and maybe give some tips. Maybe it might help somebody just to kind of get that awareness out there for some men. So start off first up, I can see here, Patty. Patty, would you want to introduce yourself, sort of talk to people, share a little bit about your background, sort of maybe how you were feeling, some of the things that you've implemented and how you're getting on now?
Yeah, hey guys. So my name is Paddy Jackson, and I've actually been with this company for the last 2 years. And before I was with the company, I was just I was a Ford Master Technician working in a garage, and I'm sure most of you can imagine what kind of lifestyle that is. You know, it's breakfast rolls and chicken fillet rolls every day, and I suppose the nutrition isn't great. And growing up, I always had great nutrition. I've never been sick and never been in hospital. Okay, and that probably came from my dad. My dad grew everything out the back garden. You know, he fed there was 6 kids and my mom and dad, and he fed us all year round from the back garden. It was potatoes, it was the best quality fruits and vegetables that you could get, and it stood to us. You know, my whole family has been healthy, and none of my family have really been sick, so I know the benefits of good nutrition. But I suppose when we move out of that nest, you get married, you have kids, you have a busier lifestyle, and if it's very hard to, especially if you're if the mom and dad, if husband and wife are both working away and you come home from a busy day, and the last thing you want to do is cook and clean up and all types of stuff, and it seems easier to get a takeaway than to go and cook a good meal. So it can be a busy and hectic lifestyle. So I suppose when you get married, obviously there's an expression, you let yourself go when you get married, don't you? But I think it's just because it's such a busy lifestyle. If you both work and you come home, you have kids, and it's very hard to get all that nutrition into your body. So I suppose 2 years ago, we made that decision to try the products, get healthier, and I think the business and the products both inspired us to inspire healthy living. Do you know what I mean? And go on the journey yourself and make some better choices. And it was so amazing, and it's really, although we didn't think we needed much nutrition, we felt the benefits of what we were missing. And we noticed changes straight away: more energy, better metabolism, weight loss, our bodies get feeling good. And I suppose when you feel good then, and you start being happier then, if your body feels good, it's very easy for you to be happy then. So I suppose it affects so much of us, what you put inside your body, whether it's putting it in your mouth and eating it, or whether it's putting it in your mind and listening to it. So I think there's two things, and I think the products and the business provide both there. And it's just been a really incredible journey. Most of you guys know that I do this business full time now. I've actually quitted the business, quitted my job as a Ford Master Technician. So the opportunity has been absolutely incredible for me, both the products and the business, and incredible for my family. Like, my kids haven't been sick, my wife haven't been sick since going on the products. It really has been an amazing journey over the last 2 years.
Incredible, Patty. And the thing is, as you say, it's not just even about getting healthier on the body, it's about growing your mind as well, because sometimes we have all these problems, but as we sort of grow our mind and we read the books and we listen to the podcasts, it makes us sort of think a little bit more positive about life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me although the products are world class and they're outstanding, I think the personal development I've gone through in the last 2 years, like I'm a completely different person than I was 2 years ago. You know, much more positive, much more confident, much more outgoing, much more like I'm not afraid to share those emotions. I don't really care what people think of me, you know, that way. And a lot of people don't share that stuff because they live in fear of what other people think. And that's a big thing for men. And I suppose it's uncomfortable for some men sharing information, you know, of how they're feeling. I think it's this masculine thing. I'm not sure where it comes from, but it's like it's like a weakness. We feel it's a weakness, but it's actually a strength. I think if you're sharing it and going through these struggles and conquering them, I think it builds you. It's a strength. So I think some people see it as a weakness of having these emotional problems or whatever it may be. But it's quite the opposite, I believe. I think if you share it, get through them, get stronger, you're able to help someone else, and it stands to you. So I think the
Definitely.
personal development journey for me has been amazing.
Incredible. And as you say, Patty, definitely us men have a real tendency when we're going through struggles, like we normally try and keep it in. And especially I think it's being Irish as well, being a man and being Irish, probably is two things that don't go towards us. We keep everything inside of us. We don't like to share with people, and those things can build up. Those can turn into like diseases and stuff because we just don't let things out. I would love to go on to Kevin. I know you're in the army. Can you share a little bit about your background and sort of the things of your struggles maybe you've gone through and sort of what you've done to get over them?
Yeah, so I'm Kevin. I'm from Dublin. I'm father of two kids, Sam, who is 7, and Lucy's nearly 3. She'll be 3 in July. I'm fiancé to Donna, who does suffer with mental health. And I suppose I'm 19 years in the army now. And the day I joined the army in 2002 it's a very different army today than it was when I joined. When I joined in 2002, it's only 19 years ago. Fellas just did not talk. And there's guys that I trained with that unfortunately are no longer with us because mental health got the better of them. And these guys have done tours overseas. They've served their country. They've gone up through the ranks, and they just felt, and I think it's a kind of an army persona as well, that you can't afford to have feelings. You can't afford to, it might look like a weakness in that type of job. But like, if you look at the army now, there's more women in the army now than there was when I joined. And some of the women that I have served with overseas and done courses with, and even promotional courses, some of them are better soldiers than some of the men. And we have been taught over the last few years, mental health has been a massive thing in the Defence Forces over the last few years, especially with overseas, going away from your families. And there's an element that supports your family at home. Even when I travel overseas, there is a number that Donna can ring if she needs a hand with the kids, or if she feels like she's no one to talk to. It's an army number. It's full of ex-soldiers and ex-soldiers' wives that will call out to the house, and it gives you that support element. And for me then, when I'm overseas, it goes easier on my mental health then, because I know she has that. I know she has the element of support from me anyway, but that's on the phone or on a Zoom call. But she has someone at home as well for when I'm away. Army guys now, on my last trip overseas, I got back on the 2nd of July last year, so nearly a year ago. Lads in the army these days now are they're a little bit more, they will talk about their feelings a little bit more. They will come to you and they'll say, look, I was the platoon sergeant when I was out there, so I was like the mammy over 40 lads anyway, so they were knocking on my door, looking for advice. My girlfriend broke up with me, my missus won't talk to me, all this kind of stuff. And sometimes you don't have to have the solution for someone like that. We've been taught that an ear to listen is worth more than you knowing what to say in an answer, being able to just sit there and listen to somebody, you don't even have to say anything. That's enough support for them as well. I've never struggled with mental health, thank God. Donna does suffer with her mental health, but since we started this journey in the business, Donna's a different person. Donna was constantly going to bed because she was tired. Well, she says tired, but it was her mental health that was playing on her. But since we started this business, as Paddy was saying, the self-development, the amount of time and effort that the company and the teams put into their people and their partners to help them develop, to make them become a better person for themselves, not for anybody else, has really, really helped us. As I said, I've never suffered with mental health, but it's around and it's a real thing. And I think, like you said, being Irish, and being that, you know, the manly man shouldn't be talking about his feelings. I mean, they always say that, we always kind of say that Ireland is a real old-fashioned country, like when it comes to the church and it comes to old, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, the old persona of the Irish man is he goes out to work, he's hard, he comes home, he pays the bills, and he just gets on with it. I think that's the wrong attitude to have. I think we should all be able to speak to each other about our problems, and it just makes life an awful lot easier.
And the thing is, as you were saying, Kevin, like sometimes you don't even need to do that much talking. It's just being the ear for there to listen to somebody. Maybe if you have maybe a friend and you notice they go a little bit quiet, maybe just reaching out to them, asking them, do they want to go for a walk? I know a lot of men, the only way they had to sort of get anything out was when they were in the pubs, but especially over lockdown, when you couldn't actually meet up with your mates, or there was no football or nothing to go to, there wasn't really anybody else to chat to. So sometimes a lot of people actually kept it in. And as you say, just be that ear to listen to them.
Yeah, very important. And very important for like you said, to keep an eye on your nearest and dearest. And if you notice them going quiet, or if you haven't heard from them for a while, you know, like a phone call or a text message can go an awful long way. And that might be what that person needs. They might need you to reach out to them and say, look, I noticed you've gone a little bit quiet over the last few weeks. Is everything all right? Do you want to meet up and go for a walk? Or would you like to go for a coffee? Or, you know, I'm going to the park to walk the dogs. Do you want to meet me there? Or, you know, and I think sometimes if it's somebody that's holding that in, you reaching out to them and doing that might, you know, let them drop their guard a small bit and say, do you know what? I wouldn't mind meeting you for a chat.
Very, very true. Really, really true.
Yeah.
And we'll go on to Niall. See Niall here, he's all dressed in his suit and he's probably the most well-dressed out of us all.
I'm not that long here for work. I was rushing home for this call. I'm probably the oldest guy on this panel, but I suppose I grew up in an era. Sorry, I'm Niall Costello. I'm 3 years in the business, but I grew up in an era where it was nearly stemmed into little big boys don't cry and this sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And it was all you didn't really talk about your feelings or talk about how you were getting on or whatever the case may be, but how much that has changed. I'm very unfortunate that I've lost 3 friends in the last sort of 10 years due to suicide or whatever. So I'm a big ambassador for, I do the Darkness into Light. I've done that for the last 9 years in a row. So I'm big into mental health and talking about stuff and talking about your feelings. And as Kevin touched on then, I would often reach out to friends that I haven't heard from maybe in a couple of weeks. And as Kevin said, simple text, everything all right, haven't heard from you, a little bit quiet on Facebook or whatever the case may be. I would always, my good instinct would always, would never be too far wrong, or somebody say, you know what, I'm not feeling myself or whatever. And many times I've met people and like that, I went for a walk or we went for a run, or obviously we haven't been into the gyms or anything like that, but that would be a big place where I'd meet some of my friends and that sort of thing. But yeah, mental health be a big thing on my list, and keep my own mental health intact. I suppose what I do to look after that is several different things that I do. Is one is obviously we take our capsules, and second of all is just minding your diet, your exercise. You exercise your body, but sometimes you need to exercise your mind also then as well, whether that's meditation or whether that's reading a book or listening to a book, or spending a bit of time on your own, or spending a bit of time with someone else, or whatever is that exercising your mind. You can use that in so many different ways, but whatever suits you to make you relax and make you, I suppose, not overthink things or whatever, like, you know. But having fun as well is a big thing. Do you know what I mean? Having fun with the kids. And talking to people. Do you know what I mean? We need to talk as men, as the lads have touched on in Ireland. It's nearly like caveman stuff in Ireland. Like, do you know what I mean? That we don't talk about our mental health. We talk about cutting wood for the fire and the stupidest little things. Like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's basically my story, if you like.
And as you said,
I would have suffered a little bit maybe with anxiety. But looking back now, I didn't realise I had anxiety back then. But thanks be to God, I know how to handle it now, and I know what to look out for, and I know what to go to and what to stay away from and that sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and as you say, like suicide is a massive thing in
Massive thing,
Ireland,
yeah.
especially among men. Like it is so. Like I say, there's very few doors in Ireland that hasn't knocked on. There's so many people who've come across it as friends, families. It's really difficult time to actually go through. And as you were talking about, like getting out, exercising is a big part. It can completely change your mood, how you're feeling. If you're feeling down, if you're sitting and watching TV, sometimes it doesn't actually help. It can make you even worse. And then sometimes when you add the alcohol into it, I know sometimes, like for me, as in my early teens, late 20s, like alcohol, sometimes I use alcohol because you think you need to use it to get away from things. You need to sort of clear the mind. But what happens is you clear the mind for a little while, but what comes back to you the next couple of days is even worse. Like the alcohol, that kind of numbs it for a little while, but it brings you back. You're even worse after the alcohol sort of gets out of your body. And I think men sometimes are prevalent to using sort of alcohol to sort of numb the pain that they've been going through. So definitely try, and one tip I would definitely give is try and reduce the alcohol and getting out and exercise. And if you can put on maybe some positive sort of podcast, like as Paddy was saying, growing your mind, listening to things that are really positive will make such a massive difference in you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's just it's as the lad said, it's something we don't talk about, and I'm delighted to be part of this call. But it's even something I've implemented even at the dinner table in our house, when the kids with the kids, and we talk about our high points of the day, our good points of the day, and our the low points of the day. And it's a good way of engaging with the kids to find out what's going on in their lives and making them talk about things, because I think we need to instill this in the generation that's coming up, to talk about their feelings more and talk about what's going on in their life. Because as you said, Seamus, unfortunately, the suicides are massive in this country, and we only hear about these suicides, unfortunately, with the funerals themselves or through family or friends or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's something we need to talk about a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, very true. Love to go over to Gary. Gary, you two there?
How are you?
How's Gary?
Not too bad, bro. I'm only in the door from work, straight into the car. Can you hear me all right?
You've gone through, you've had incredible results. So like the difference in you, how much have you actually lost in weight?
I'm just coming up to almost 6 stone now, weight now in the last 2 years.
That's incredible. You must feel like a completely new man.
Yeah, well, for me, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Gary. I'm 33 years of age, and I'm a father of two. For me, growing up, I was in the bar game. Being a barman from a very young age, from the age of 15 to the age of 30. So with 15 years in the bar game, and the diet was very bad. We had also hit a point in life where something had happened, and we touched on mental health. So I was thinking about the call, how to be honest, and what to talk about. I sort of hit a wall halfway through my teens, and I put on weight very quick, an awful lot of weight. We had gone from being a 13 stone teenage lad to when I was 28, 29 years of age, I was touching 18.5 stone. So nearly 19 stone in weight. I had been feeling severely sick and severely unwell for a long time. And I woke up one morning, I went to the doctors, and I've said this before, and I said, look, I don't feel right. I said, I'm getting chest pains, I'm getting back pains. There's something that's going on. I need to have a look and see what's happening. And he done a whole full body scan, and he says, the way it's going, he says, we keep going the way it's going, you're going to be dead by the time you're 30. By the time you're 32, you're not going to make it. He says, your body's just going to cave in. And that frightened me, because I couldn't walk. I'm actually sitting inside my house now. I couldn't walk from my front door to the corner without being out of breath. And I'd been watching a guy on Facebook for about 6 weeks. And you get know him yourself, Seamus Joe, who runs his own gym. I've been watching him for 6 weeks before I went down. And I remember the first night walking into the gym, I'm very bad anxiety because there were so many people there, and I turned around to walk out. And Joe stood in front of me and says, you're not going nowhere. You should just stay where you are. And like that too, I think I was 4 weeks into the gym. Capsules and shakes then became part of their daily routine. And like that, it was something for me. It was something new because I tried all this stuff before, different fads and different ways of walking, and it worked. I was just under a year with Joe in the gym, and the weight came off. To talk about them threads, It's unbelievable. The shred now this month, I'm looking forward to because COVID caught me. And I got very lackadaisy and very back into myself again. But the last 3 years now we've been involved in this business, it's been very, very hard for men to say, I don't need help. I'm all right the way I am. They've come apparent to accept what way their body is and they don't want to feel, they don't know how to feel a change. I have 7 or 8 men, I think, that I'm helping at the minute, and a good couple of women as well. But for me, if I'm honest, finding the capsules and finding the shakes is not to give me that second win in life. If people know me in this business, I don't sugarcoat nothing. I'm as real as real can be. If you don't like it, touch on and find someone else. And I think that's why I'm doing so well. Because I don't hide behind the phone, and I'm very public now on Facebook and Instagram as into regards to my story and stuff. And
what would be the main, so I know you've had incredible weight loss, like what would be some of the main benefits you've had apart from the weight loss? Like how's it helped you with positivity and energy?
Being able to breathe is one of them, because I couldn't breathe before. You know, the energy level of them is unreal, but not only that, it's what it does to your self-esteem again. Like I was wearing clothes that was bigger than what I was the whole way, even when I lost the weight, because in my head I still thought that Gary was still 18 stone. And someone put it to me one day to stand in front of a mirror in the gym and take the top off and take a photograph. It took me 8 weeks to do that. And when I done it, I went, what's going on? You know, that kind of way. Then the persona then of the old Gary sort of faded and went away. And then obviously then, as you know, then the last 3 years for me have been unbelievable. I'm sorry I didn't find them sooner. Because I think if I had found them a lot sooner, it probably would have been different for me, but I think I had to go through that bad patch in order to come out where I am now. And like, even the family now, I've the kids, the missus, myself, the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, half the neighbours on this block, you know, they're all taking the products because they see me every day and they see me energy, and you know how we bounce around now when I'm talking to people has changed. I think there's about 50 houses on this street so far, and I guarantee you 49 of them have the products in that house already. So yeah, I'm privileged. I really am.
Fruit and veg dealer.
Fruit and veg dealer all the way there.
Amazing. I'll go on to Connor. Connor, can you share a little bit about? I knew you have had absolutely incredible results. You've probably a lot of people have probably seen the results, the muscles you've got, the definition you've got in your body. But you can share a little bit about your background, like where you've kind of come from. I know you worked in the music industry. Can you share a little bit about that and the benefits that you've got?
Yeah, so my name's Connor. Yeah, well, I was a full-time musician for the last 14 years. I've had 2 kids. One of them was her first birthday there last month in May. And I guess I was always into my sports, basketball, Gaelic, and then I was quite often training, bodyweight training. And then we moved into our house September 2019. And for about 3 months, spent doing up the house, had no kitchen, no cooker, you know, painting and doing all the work. So it was a lot of takeaways and McDonald's and anything that we could grab. The carpenter was getting fed every day and chippers and snack boxes. So that went on for you know, from September, October, November, right to December. And those November, December for my band at the time, you know, we were absolutely out the door with gigs. You know, it was 4 or 5 nights a week gigging, tours up and down the country, late nights, you know, drinking coffees, Monster on the way home. You know, it was an amazing time of gigs, and you know, it was brilliant. But it really rallied my body to the point where we know when you get into the January, I'm gonna get back on the. I couldn't even do it in the January. You know what I mean? I could not find the motivation and the drive, and that went on for another. Everything was an excuse. I was my birthday on the 9th of February. Oh, after my birthday, and then of course that rolled into March then, and when lockdown came in, and I was over in the United Arab Emirates doing a royal wedding when Dublin went into lockdown, and everybody was fighting in the car parks in Musgraves, and myself and the lads were sitting over there, and we got a bit of Wi-Fi in the hotel, and it was just like there's chaos going on here. All our gigs, every email was just a cancelled gig. So I was like, what the hell? So we came home, and yeah, my whole line of work, all I ever did was a musician. Like, so my whole line of work's just gone. The whole year deleted, you know, from the calendar. And I didn't really take that very well because even the fact I wasn't in great shape, I wasn't feeling good, and I had no drive. We took on a gig in early January of 2020 with a big promotion company, MCD, and it was supposed to be our biggest headline gig ever. You know, it was in the Button Factory in town. But one of the rules was we couldn't do any Dublin shows 3 months before or any Dublin shows 3 months afterwards. So that really, we didn't really think about it. We were thinking of the bigger picture, but that really put a dampener on our regular little gigs that we used to have around Dublin, you know what I mean? So all that money was gone. So I was already, the first 3 months of 2020, I was already very financially stressed, and we had a new baby on the way. And like, it was to the point where when I got home from Oman, we didn't even have the money to buy a new pram for our little one. So the combination of like the financial stress and that I remember I saw a video that the drummer posted down on a gig in the 28th of December, and he just scouted around the crowd, and I was like this with my saxophone, and I was wearing a long sleeve button down shirt, and my belly was like out to here. And I remember looking at it at the break, and I felt like going up to go, man, you take that off your story, will you? Every part of me wanted to say it, but I felt too proud to even have to say that to him, do you know what I mean? Because it was the first time I looked at myself and I proper let myself go, like in years, you know what I mean? And yeah, so when, like I said, I was already feeling terrible about myself, financially, physically, emotionally, and I said I have never suffered with mental health, but that was the first time, as Noel said earlier on, that I think I had a bit of anxiety coming on, you know. And when the lockdown happened and we were at home, I just sat on my pity potty for 2 months. Oh, me gigs, I'll just get another 24 pack of Guinness. I'll have 3 on Thursday, I'll have 5 on Saturday, and then I'll have this and that. And Nikki was pregnant, you know, so I kind of used that. I was on Zoom calls with the lads, cans, you know what I mean, on midweek nights. It was just, everybody did it, you know what I mean? It was just, everybody was in the same boat. But I really thought that, you know, this COVID thing was only going to last for a month or two. You know, you'd be back gigging, everything would be all right again. But it just that never happened, you know what I mean? So I woke up one morning, so I looked at myself in the mirror, and this is when, you know, I heard Brezzy talking about it, and you know, the singer Brezzy, he's suffering with depression, and I heard him on a call talking about every time he felt like it was coming on, he'd wake up in the morning and he'd go and put on his runners and he'd just run for as long as he could, and that was how he dealt with it. So one morning I said to Nikki, I said, I'm just, from this Monday, I'm going back out the back garden and I'm going to start my bodyweight training. I was never really into the gyms and weights and all. So I downloaded a bodyweight program from a guy in America. It was all you needed was a pull-up bar. So it took me a few weeks to get one. I had to get a guy to make me one, actually a welder. But that's all I needed. So I just set my mind, because I knew if I just said I'm doing this, I think Esme was born on the 6th of May. So I started 2 weeks after she was born. So, you know, middle to the end of May, I started. And I just set that Monday that, you know, this was when I was going to change everything, because it was dealing with everything else. But the fact that I had a 3-year-old at the time, and he's now 4, and a brand new baby girl. And I knew the gig, like I was like this, there could be a few months here where I have a chance where I don't have to be doing late nights. I don't have to be doing rehearsals over in the studio during the day. I have a good chance here to actually work on myself, use the time off to actually turn it into a positive and actually develop myself and, you know, become fitter and healthier. Because I knew having 2, not that I did with the first, but having a baby girl and a boy now, was like, I want to be like the best version of myself that I can be for these 2 kids. I want to live for as long as I can live for these 2 kids, because, you know, even my own dad, he got testicular cancer. He was diagnosed just 2 weeks before my daughter was born. So that was a very hard thing to deal with just before my baby girl was born. You know what I mean? So I'm really put into perspective, like, you know, how we need to be there for our kids, you know what I mean? And to be the, as I said, the healthiest and the most fittest version we could be. And so I started that process, started training, and I did this 8-week program, and the guy I bought it off was shredded, like, you know, absolutely shredded, like 8% body fat. And I was like, I just looked at him and said, I want to be that, I want to look like him. And I didn't look like him after the 8-week program. And I was, so to get me money back here. And actually, do you know what? I messaged the guy on Instagram. He has like 700,000 followers, and he messaged me back within a few hours. And, you know, he was giving me advice and saying, I sent him me photos and I said, I'm not happy with my lower back fat. I can't see my lower abs, my obliques are sticking out. I told him it was real. There's it, me being open and honest with some guy that I didn't know, because he inspired me to be, I wanted to look like him, you know. So I asked him for advice, and he did say, you know, what's your diet like? You know, and I just told him a few little bits and bobs. And just, it was around that time when Nikki found the products. You know, Nikki came across the products through a neighbor, and she came into the house all excited. And as Paddy said earlier on, I was very skeptical. I tried to turn her off it like for about a week. I said, no, that's not going to work. You're going to like, it's a Weight Watchers thing. And, you know, I was very skeptical. And she didn't listen to me. She went, ordered like a full package, platinum package. She started straight away. I didn't do it with her. And she had unbelievable results. Like 5 days in, her energy was up. She was staying awake later in the evenings. She lost 6 kilos in her first 10-day shred. Her before and after results were just unbelievable. So I was like, right, I want to do it, because I knew I needed something to help me with my diet. And I lost 4% body fat on my first 10-day shred. So I went from 13% to 9% in the 10 days. And I've done the shred every month now for the last 10 months. And I'm the happiest, I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I'm a different person than I was a year ago. And it's been about a year since this whole journey, my own decision to, I didn't try the products maybe August last year, but the whole decision to like change my life around for my kids and my family started about a year ago. And it's been the best decision I've ever made by a mile.
And you've had incredible results. Like the results have been going around, like they're unbelievable. The difference from when you started, and you says like before, even those before probably weren't even as bad as the ones you were saying, like when you were in the saxophone and you had the belly hanging out. Sometimes it takes something like that to like, it needs to kick us into action. We think, how the hell have we got in such a bad shape? Sometimes we don't, if we're kind of with baggy clothes on, we don't really notice it. And it can take just something like that to make a decision that we're going, do you know what? This is enough. I've had enough of being like this. Because as you say, most of us on it, we have kids. We want to be around for our kids for as long as we possibly can be. And whether it's helping us with our mental health, whether it's helping us be in the best shape that we can be, that we get to not only just see our kids grow up, but we get to see our grandkids grow up, and we get to be the grandparents that are running around with the kids, that have the energy, we're able to play with them. And a lot of that will go down to your diet and really what kind of standard of life you're going to do now, because so many people think, do you know what? They'll struggle through it. This is kind of the norm. And you know what? You get one chance at life. You have one chance. I've never met anybody who said, do you know what? I'm doing this for the second time. I didn't really like it the first time, but I'm going to give it me all the second time. I haven't met anybody yet. So you get the one chance. So why not be the best version that you can possibly be? And if you do have kids, like, not only just do it for yourself, like do it for your family, do it for your kids. And as we says, like, it's Men's Health Week. We were talking earlier, like suicide is massive in Ireland. We probably, every one of us have probably know a few people who have done it. Reach out to people. Like if you see, as we said, if you see somebody going a little bit quiet, reach out to them, have a listen to them. As you said, we don't even need to do that much talking. It's just sitting there, listen, let them get their worries off their chest, because you never know what people are going through behind doors, the struggles that they could be. And it could be just because you've reached out to them and you've allowed them to share their troubles with you, that their outlook in life could be completely different by that one little thing that you do. So guys, thank you so much for coming on. The amount of value, the stories that you've shared, I am sure it will resonate with so many people tonight on the call. So for any of you buddies watching, can you show so much love to these guys coming on? For being men, it's not that easy to share our feelings, but to come on here live in front of all of these people on Facebook and share what they've been going through, some of their struggles, go on and share so much with these guys and show your appreciation. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Seamus. Thanks for having us.
See you later, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. See you soon.
Bye.